Did you already try Turntable in Illustrator? Did you encounter any issues? Welcome to the Vector Garden. In this video, we're going to take a look at some of the issues people have encountered. So first of all, let's take a look at what it needs to work. So what you need is a specific version of the Illustrator beta. You need at least version 14. And then it should work. If it doesn't, for some people, it worked to uninstall and reinstall it. And also, the button will only appear under certain circumstances. So I've got this here, and you see no button because this is just a placed image file. So in this case, I would first need to trace it. I'm going to take a look at that in a minute. Let's just take a look at this one here. So when I'm drawing cartoons, then pretty often I'm using Live Paint. And for Live Paint, as you see, no button either. So let's click on Expand. And then you see there's the button. Now, another thing is I'm going to ungroup this because a Live Paint, when you expand it, it will be grouped in certain ways. So let's ungroup this. And now we have two groups. And if I select these two, again, no button. This needs to be one group. And then you get this turntable button. Let's take a look at image trace, because of course, that's a great way to get those shapes as well. And for that, I'm going to the image trace panel, like here. And for this one, I can click on Auto Color and it will give me a pretty decent result. What's important here is that you ignore the background color, because if you don't, you will encounter another problem. Let's expand that. And when I'm doing that, then in here we will have a background object. This is grouped, turntable button is there, so if you now click it, then you get this pop-up. It may contain a background, and that will not work. You can continue, but it will not make any sense. So let's click on No. And I'm going to undo expanding. And let's just click Ignore Color. So everything that is white will be ignored. And that's okay for me. So let's expand that now. And now when going to the turntable, the result will be okay. Let's take a look at another thing. This one here. And you see, this is only lines. So let's do it now. I have already traced that. Let's ignore the color white and then let's expand that. And then I'm going to make a turntable of this. And then we are diving into the issues you might encounter with the result. So let's go to turntable and let's make this. And as you see, it's not only just lines, it doesn't have the second arm, and the face is only just a couple of shapes, so it's not clearly recognizable as a shape. And also the shoes, that's just a hint of a person, and that will not work pretty well with turntable, but maybe the results are still usable. So there we are. There's the result, and now I can rotate that, and you see there it's okay, but here we do not see a face anymore, and here it doesn't know how to fill it. So, and then here it's getting completely weird, so completely off. But then what I like about it is this view, because of course that's not usable as it is, but I get something to work on. I get this, and then I will have to add a second arm and maybe work on the head somewhat. But the perspective of the feet works quite well, so that is something I will not have to redo. I'm not pretty good at drawing in perspective, so this is helpful, although it's not perfect, and I do not expect it to be perfect. To be honest, I like it because it helps me in my workflow. I do not have to research a lot of template images to then draw my perspective and base my drawing on it. I can work on this and use fewer other template images to continue working on this, and that's what I like about it. So Let's go here, and you see now it gets completely off. That's completely unusable. So this here as well. So there's probably nothing that can be used. Maybe this one here. So this is helpful as well. Right here. So that can be used. And maybe parts of this one. And the same is true for the horse. Let's base it on this one, because this one, as you can see, there are live strokes in it. So if I go into outline view, you see the strokes are still live. And now we're going to make the turntable. And when doing the turntable, what happens is that Illustrator sends this into the cloud to Firefly. And then Firefly does the artificial intelligence part of that. And artificial intelligence, as it's currently working and probably continue working for some time, is pixel-based. So this is converted to pixels, and then it's interpreted and generated in the Firefly module and then sent back to Illustrator. And it gets auto-traced after being generated as pixels, because pixels is what generative AI is currently doing for images. So now let's take a look at it, and we can rotate this. And since this zebra has a clearly recognizable shape, the results are better than for that cartoon person that I just showed you. The results here are better and better usable, but still I would have to work on that. But maybe you're like me and you can draw a horse from the side, but from the back or from the front, not as easy. So this is helpful actually. Let's take a look at some of the views, and now we can just insert this to make a copy of it. So this is just a copy of the view that I just generated, and still this is also live. So I could click on Turntable and it wouldn't need to be regenerated now. I can just continue from this. We can go into outline view, and there you see there are no longer strokes in this because it has been auto-traced. Firefly has worked on raster images that have been auto-traced, and now we no longer have strokes. And also the structure that you had in your drawing, the hierarchy and all of that in the layers panel, those do no longer exist. Let's take a look at some more results. This is also a turntable result that I have generated a view and put that into the file. So I have just inserted it and can now work on what is the original that has been generated. But if you just insert that view and then want to really disconnect it from the turntable, so let's do that again. I'm going to insert this view. And then if you want to get rid of that, what you can do is go to Ungroup. And then it is no longer live. Unfortunately, you cannot see that very well in the layers panel. So if we take a look at that, then you see these that are still editable turntables, they are called group. And the one that I have just ungrouped is called generative object. But if I would now click on the turntable again, then it would generate a new one based on this. I have already done that. That is this one here. And let's take a look at that. And you see, of course, if you regenerate it based on what you have already created, then you get pretty weird results and you won't be able to get back to your original drawing. But maybe that is somewhat interesting for your work as well. I don't know your style, so just so you know, when you want to do some visual experiments, this is something that you can do.